So who are you currently collaborating with, working with, that you're really excited about for a future project?
Yeah, basically anybody that I have on the show is kind of a collaboration.
Okay.
Because that's how I've been able to grow my audience.
Right.
Through collaborating with guests that come on that have audiences that share with people like Grant Cardone that share an episode or something like that. As far as like in my core business that I run,
right.
I have a couple of partners that I'm working with right now that are really we're kind of just collaborating. We both own very similar businesses, and we're kind of collaborating to help each other out with that. For the podcast, probably one of the more exciting interviews that I have coming up would be with Jack Canfield, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. They've sold one of the best-selling books, literally.
One of the largest, one of the largest books sold of all time. How many has he sold to date? You had just mentioned this earlier.
Over 500 million.
I mean, that's a number that how to fathom that, over 500 million, that's nuts.
Million,
And you're going to be collaborating with him, working with him, and doing a podcast.
Right.
Like, that says something. You haven't been doing this a year, and I don't mean that I'm like, you've already made it to that level. And that kind of takes us into this what we had talked about is connecting and networking, because sometimes you can have your talent levels can really be up here.
Yeah, totally.
And you're going up against someone else that their talent levels are just here, but they know more people, and that way it allows them to network and connect and take themselves past what you're able to do. So tell us, with what you're working on right now, why is connecting and networking with all these different people around the country so important, and how do you do it?
Yeah, so great question. I'll give you this answer because I think that it's really all-encompassing. So there's a question that I ask everybody that comes on my show, which is, do you believe that what you know is more important, or is who you know more important? And then I ask them why. And so when I initially started the show, I'd written out probably 25, 35 questions or something like that I wanted to like kind of ask guests sporadically. I wanted to make sure I asked that one to every single guest, but it was more like a lob question. It was like here, knock this one out of the park, say who, and then we'll talk about networking for the next hour. But what happened was I started getting just crazy different answers for that question. So it was like I have some people that say what, some people say who, some people say who with what, some people say what with who, some people say it's a combination of the two, and it was honestly kind of mind blowing to me. I was like, oh wow, I thought it was just going to be like your
lollipop question became actually where it took you down.
Question.
Right, it was like, okay, I'm learning something here.
Right, totally. So now I've asked that question to almost 150 people on the show, and I've stuck to my answer, but for a different reason.
Right.
So, I think that it's who you know that's more important, which is obvious with my whole brand, my whole podcast, about networking and connecting, and speaks to how valuable that I think it is. But it's because the who will always increase the what exponentially, and I don't see that the opposite is true.
Right.
So meaning that like, both are important. It's you can't deny, like if you're incompetent, you're just going to burn through relationships. You have to be a competent individual that adds value to others, right? But the who will increase the what exponentially, whereas the what won't increase the who exponentially. Your what will increase your who. Like if you're doing really great things, people are going to hear about you, and you're going to be able to meet people.
Regardless.
Right, regardless. But it won't be at the same rate as if you like go meet people intentionally, and then your what kind of raises because they know the things that you need to know, obviously, because they're in a position that you want to be in. So the best illustration that I have for it is if you're like at an amusement park and you're with your buddies, like me and you go to, I don't know what amusement park around here is. We go to
Six Flags.
Six Flags, and what I asked the guy this yesterday because it's a different rides here. So for me, it's Goliath and like Deja Vu. So what's a ride here for you guys? Titan.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know this because I haven't been there. Titan, all right.
So like, me and you go to Six Flags, we're going to go ride Titan.
Yep.
And you run ahead, I go to the bathroom really quick, and I grab a drink or something. And by the time I get to you, you've been standing in line for a half hour, right? And so you're like 25 people up in line. When I get to that line, I don't just stand in the back, right? You're up there. So then you're like, hey, Travis, come up here. So now I get to just walk past all these people that are standing in line and go to be with you up here 25 people ahead. So that's how I view networking, because the person that you're connecting with has been there, done that. And so they can help you past all these people that are like working their way, standing there, because like you have to walk those steps. So you're still walking the same steps those people are, but you're just doing it way faster. You're skipping rungs on the ladder, right? You're shortening the runway. because the people that you know increase your what exponentially. So then you go collaborate with that person, and then there's another person that you got that we both know that's ahead of us. They calls us both up. We can run up there, and we skip all these other people. So you can do it both ways. Like you can learn the what for sure by yourself and do it in an isolated way, and you can take those small baby steps and stand in the line. But the fastest way and most efficient way, in my opinion, is to do it through networking, because they're always going to call you up ahead of everybody else, and you'll get that knowledge that those people won't get. So I mean, I know several very successful people, you know, multi-millionaires that did it on their own.
Right.
And didn't. But I would argue that if they would have connected with more people when they were younger, just getting started, they probably would have. I 100% believe that they would just fast track that.
And they probably understand that now as well.
Yeah,
the world is different. Social media is different. It allows us to connect with people through Instagram.
Yeah.
Molly, for instance, we were able to connect with Ryan Serhant, that's on Bravo TV.
Yeah.
Again, it was Instagram that allowed us to do that.
Yeah.
So these platforms have allowed us to reach out and actually feel that we have an opportunity, and then if you actually take it like you have over the last almost 12 months, you're now where you're at today. I'm not saying because you're on the Naked Agent, but with the people that you have connected with, that you have interviewed while you're growing your podcast.
Yeah, totally. And it's like I said, people confuse it, because I think that they think that they have to know enough to strike $1 million deal with somebody, instead of just like, hey, what can I do that's going to add a little bit of value to this individual that I really want to connect with? And perfect example, I don't know if we have time for this, but perfect example. So I'll talk a little bit about him when we were first getting started. John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, multi-million-dollar podcaster, just genius, like online marketer, podcaster, all this stuff. I wanted to connect to John because I was like, if I'm going to do this podcasting thing, I want to make sure I'm doing it right. I want to learn from the people who are at the place where I want to be, which brings me to another great point. Never take advice from somebody who you don't want to be like, right? There's way too many people that take advice from somebody that never did the things that they want to do, and it's mind-blowing to me, honestly, how much people, you know, they take the advice of their parents who have never made more than $60K in a year when they're trying to become a millionaire, and it's like,
they can't see past that wall. That is what it is, right?
So I was like, okay, I want to be like John, so I'm going to go try to beat John. So literally thousands of people that reach out to this guy. So I wanted to get into a more intimate setting. So I saw he was putting on a mastermind, which was about 5 people.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what, I'll be there. So it was like $6,500 for the mastermind plus the tickets to Puerto Rico. It was like $8K for the whole trip.
But you're investing in yourself and your future at that point.
It's an investment. Right, totally. You're exactly right. So I went there, but most people, I caught myself thinking this as soon as I booked it. I was like, because that at the time was the most I'd ever spent on anything like that, like by a long shot. So I was like, man, I better get something from this. And immediately when I started thinking that, I caught myself and I was like, that's not the attitude I want to go into this weekend with. I want to go in thinking like, how can I add value to you? So not only did I just pay you a lot of money, but like, I don't want to come away from this weekend like thinking, what can I get to make it worth my money? I want to come into it thinking like, how can I build a real relationship with this guy, and what can I add? Like, how can I add some value to him?
It's the give. Right. If you give the give, the get might take longer, but it exponentially will fill you.
Right, exactly. If your hand is always closed in giving, you can't receive anything either, right? So you have to be willing to give in order to be able to receive.